Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the steamy, slippery heart of old Baghdad. Back when the city's air was thick with trade winds, donkey complaints, and the scent of something strangely soapy. Not the kind of history you hear in school, unless your school had an elective called Medieval Hygiene and Donkey Diplomacy. Which, let's be honest, it probably didn't. We're spending an entire day in the soap-making quarter. And don't worry, it's not the boring kind of soap story. You'll see bubbling cauldrons the size of bathtubs, secret recipes guarded with more drama than a palace coup, and a goat who refuses to leave the courtyard. Honestly, you probably wouldn't last 5 minutes in these heat-drenched alleys without slipping on olive oil or being asked to carry a bucket of lye. But don't worry, you're just the narrator's favorite shadow tonight. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, let me know in the comments, where are you watching from, and what time is it over there? Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake before dawn in a small guest room above a perfumery. The floor is uneven, the air is warm, and everything smells faintly of rosewater and yesterday's cumin. Outside the wooden shutters, the city is still muffled with sleep, though somewhere a rooster begins his morning monologue with too much confidence. You stretch. Somewhere between the folds of your wool blanket is a note reminding you what day it is. The day you finally visit the famous soap-making quarter of Baghdad. And yes, you brought sandals. You're not that naive. You tiptoe down the crooked stairs past the perfumer's sleeping cat, who doesn't flinch even when you stumble over the last step and whisper an apology in full dramatic whisper. The shop itself is still half dark. Rows of tiny bottles catching what little light seeps through the lattice windows. You resist the urge to sample a vial labeled Tears of a Persian Princess, probably not poison, and slip outside. The city is just beginning to hum. Water sellers shuffle past with sloshing goatskins. 2 bakers slap dough against the inside of the clay ovens with the coordination of a ballet troupe raised on carbs. A woman passes by balancing a basket of coriander on her head, like it's a crown, and everywhere, cats. The cats of Baghdad are like gossip, ever present and always in your way. You cut through alleys with names like Street of Warm Bread and Lane of the Lame Pigeon. Each corner you turn carries a different scent. Dates, onion, wet dust, burnt sugar, old parchment. It's not glamorous, but it's weirdly comforting. As you round a corner, you nearly collide with an old man pushing a cart of soap scraps and lemon peels. He raises an eyebrow but says nothing. You nod in what you hope is the local dialect of "my bad," and continue on, the cart's squeaky wheel fading behind you like a tiny musical warning. You pass a trio of boys dragging a broken sandal in the dirt, debating loudly whether soap was first invented by a priestess, a goat, or a very confused lightning storm. No one wins, but the goat theory gets more support than expected. Finally, as the sun peeks shyly over the horizon, you arrive at a wide wooden gate, tall, arched, and blackened by time and steam. A faded sign above reads in curling script, District of Purifiers, Dyers, and Bubble Makers. You knock, because of course you do. You're polite. No answer. Then a small window slides open at eye level. A sleepy guard squints at you. His hair is the color of a forgotten almond, and his tunic smells of vinegar and long shifts. He blinks once, then again, then mumbles something about soap tax and lost slippers. You smile. He shrugs. The gate creaks open. You step into a new world. It's louder in here, not with shouting, but with the soft roar of work. Cauldrons boiling, ladles scraping, footsteps on stone, birds in the rafters arguing over territorial rights. There are rows of drying racks, stacks of wooden molds, and hanging baskets full of crushed flowers, herbs, and powders with names like Cypress Night and Dust of 10 Kings. You try not to inhale too deeply when you pass the one labeled Experimental Batch Number 6, Do Not Touch, still smokes. You're not here for a tour exactly. You're here for the rhythm, the slow, unhurried beat of people doing something old, something precise, something so ordinary it became extraordinary just by enduring. They've been making soap here for centuries. Every generation tweaks the formula, argues about oil blends, and, inevitably, names a soap after someone's aunt. You walk further in. The stone underfoot is slick with something you don't want to identify just yet. Workers move like steam, fast, hot, and impossible to hold on to. You dodge a boy carrying a basket of bitter orange peels and nod at a woman hunched over a massive bronze vat, her hands wrapped in linen, her hair tied up in what appears to be yesterday's tea towel. Someone shouts your name. Except, you never told them your name. You turn, unsure whether to run or pretend to be a tourist lost on their way to the spice market. But it's just a teenager in an oversized apron, waving you over with the sort of confidence usually reserved for people who know exactly where the best snacks are. Ali, he says, pointing to himself. I'm Ali. You're the person who wanted to see the soap secrets, right? You nod, even though you're pretty sure you never said those words. But Ali is already walking away, and you, naturally, follow. You walk past rows of oil barrels. Some are stamped with elegant calligraphy. Others just say olive-ish in slightly panicked handwriting. The air grows warmer, wetter. Somewhere nearby, something starts to boil, loudly. Ali pauses at a doorway, then grins. Welcome to the softest place in Baghdad, he says. Then adds, watch your step. Last week we lost a cat in here. Slipped, slid, right into a lavender vat. Came out smelling incredible. You step inside, and suddenly, your day in the soap-making quarter truly begins. Ali walks ahead with the posture of someone who has almost definitely never read a map, but insists on being the guide anyway. His sandals slap the stone floor with each step, leaving a faint trail of damp dust that seems to match his general energy. Slightly chaotic, pleasantly fragrant, and questionably clean. You follow him through a long, arched hallway lined with brass hooks. Hanging from them are bundles of dried herbs, faded cloth mitts, half-burnt incense sticks, and, most curiously, a row of what appear to be ceremonial spoons. Each spoon is engraved with different Arabic phrases. For good bubbles, for fast cooling, for Thursdays only. One of them simply reads, "Do not lick." You don't ask. The hallway opens into a broad, sunlit chamber. The roof is partially open, letting in beams of morning light that catch in the rising steam like golden threads. It smells like olive oil, smoke, wet ash, and lemon. It also smells like something else, something sharp and strangely nostalgic. Like that one school supply drawer that always had a mystery scent no one could name. Ali gestures grandly with both arms. These are the cauldrons. And there they are. A row of bronze monsters, each wider than a dinner table, squatting in fire pits like ancient beasts. They bubble with thick golden liquid that burps occasionally, as if protesting its workload. Workers in rolled-up sleeves stir the vats with long paddles that look like flattened oars. One man wipes sweat from his brow with what might be a piece of bread. He doesn't eat it afterward. Thank heavens. Ali continues. This is where the soap gets its soul. You nod as if you're an expert in soap spirituality. Nearby, two women are arguing over whether the cauldron on the far right is too citrusy. One of them tastes a drop off her fingertip, nods and says it reminds her of her neighbor's laundry during the rainy season. The other disagrees. It reminds her of heartbreak. Soap is clearly more emotional than you thought. You watch as chunks of white ash are added to the mix, alkaline material made from burned plant matter, mostly from desert trees, and apparently one weird shrub that only grows near abandoned goat sheds. It's known as the cranky herb. No one knows why. Ali explains. The ash reacts with the oils, breaks them down, rebonds them. We stir it for hours. You can't rush soap. Not good soap, anyway. You ask how they know when it's done. He points to a boy nearby, who sticks his pinky finger into a tiny ladle of the mixture, blows on it, and then presses it to his cheek like it's a perfume sample. If it stings a little, Ali says, it's working. If it stings a lot, it's vinegar. If it doesn't sting at all, it's probably lunch. You hear a loud clang. One of the younger workers has accidentally dropped a copper ladle into the vat. Nobody panics. Instead, an older woman sighs deeply, walks over with a stick, and calmly fishes it out. The soap mixture splashes slightly, onto her shoes, onto the floor, onto a sleepy cat that was napping under the boiler. The cat doesn't move. It just blinks slowly, now faintly lemon-scented. You ask about the recipes. Are they secret? Ali shrugs. Some are, some aren't. Depends who's asking, and if there's tea involved. You pass a low shelf stacked with small clay bowls filled with powdered colorants. Reds from madder root, blues from indigo, green from dried mint, even a soft gray made from crushed seashells. Soap color, you're told, is mostly for the fancy folks. Regular people want it clean. Rich people want it clean and pink. You watch a man slowly pour in rosewater from a cracked jug. He hums as he stirs. The smell rises up like a memory you didn't know you had. A festival, maybe. A holiday. A grandmother's scarf. And then, from somewhere deep in the corner, a voice calls out. Ali, your beard smells like scorched basil again. Ali winces. It's the firewood. I swear. You look closer. His beard does indeed seem to be absorbing more aroma than average. It smells a bit like a kitchen after someone attempted herbal tea and accidentally invented soup. He doesn't seem to mind. At least it's not last week's fish oil soap that stayed in my nose for days. He beckons you toward a smaller room to the side, one with lower ceilings and fewer people. Here the vats are smaller, and the soap is already cooling in long wooden molds. The blocks are matte, soft-looking, and arranged in neat rows like sleeping loaves of bread. This is the batch from 2 days ago, Ali says. We let it rest, then cut, then dry, then argue about whose handwriting is worst when labeling. You bend down and touch one. It's warm, slightly springy, and smells faintly of bay leaves and rain. Ali taps one with his knuckle. This one's going to Mosul. This one, Samarkand. This one? We think it was ordered by mistake. The label says for a horse. Not sure if it's for a horse or shaped like a horse. In the far corner, a boy is carving simple symbols into some of the softer blocks. Leaves, stars, the Arabic letter for S. You ask why? Decoration, Ali says. Also makes people feel fancy when they wash, like they're being watched by angels who care about skincare. You laugh softly. So does he. You linger for a moment longer, letting the scent wrap around you like a sleepy fog. A mix of oil, ash, flowers, sweat, and time. The workers move quietly. The steam rises. The fire cracks gently in the pits below. You realize, this isn't just a factory. It's a rhythm. A place where people have been perfecting the same gestures for generations. Where even the arguments are inherited. Where soap is not just soap, it's memory made smooth. Ali looks at you and asks, "Hungry yet?" You nod. And with that, the two of you head toward the lunch courtyard, past the drying racks, the scent of mint and sandalwood trailing behind you. The lunch courtyard isn't marked on any map, and it doesn't really have walls. It just sort of happens between three half-collapsed doorways, a stack of firewood, and a stubborn fig tree that refuses to stop growing sideways. You're not even sure who owns the space. It might be the carvers. It might be the cats. Ali announces your arrival to no one in particular, and yet somehow, within seconds, someone has handed you a piece of warm flatbread stuffed with fig paste and a crumbly white cheese that smells like clouds if clouds were slightly fermented. A group of workers sits in a rough circle, soap dust still clinging to their sleeves. Sandals scuffed, forearms shiny with honest sweat. They wave you over like you're an old friend late for dinner. One of them scoots over to make room on an overturned soap mold. Another offers you a bite of something that looks suspiciously like a fried date. Insists it's not as spicy as last time, and then laughs when you flinch anyway. This is the soap carver's corner. They're the ones who take the cooled, resting soap loaves and transform them into neat, fragrant bricks. Some for washing, some for display, some for gifting to people who absolutely will re-gift them later. Their tools are small. Metal picks, curved knives, spoons for sculpting the edges smooth, and stamps for imprinting fancy letters or religious blessings. One carver, a man with more wrinkles than a forgotten linen shirt, is carving the word Islam, peace, into a block shaped like a teacup. For a merchant from Shiraz, he mutters. Says it helps him sleep better. I think he just likes the smell of clove. Another is working on a rectangular bar meant to resemble a camel. She's halfway through sculpting the hump and pauses to sip her tea, which smells faintly of cardamom and strongly of revenge. She looks at you and says, "You ever seen a camel up close?" You shake your head. Don't. They know things. A third carver is working on a soap shaped like a tiny scroll, muttering about how difficult it is to make soap look wise. It keeps turning out smug. You eat your bread slowly, absorbing every detail. The air here is different, less steamy, more dusty, tinged with wood smoke and drying herbs. A bird sings somewhere above, and a cat jumps onto the table, steals a fig, and vanishes like a thief with dietary preferences. Ali leans in. "They're the best storytellers in the district," he whispers. "Don't ask for directions, though. Last time someone did, they ended up in the vinegar market for 3 hours." Naturally, someone starts telling a story without being asked. It's about the time a carver accidentally scented a whole batch of soap with pickled garlic oil, mistaking the jar for something more romantic. No one noticed until it was already on a boat bound for Alexandria. To this day, the storyteller says solemnly, there's a family in Egypt who loves washing with garlic, says it keeps their neighbors respectful. You ask if that story's true. They all shrug in unison. That's not the point, Ali says. The point is, it could have been. You ask about the designs. Who decides what gets carved? Sometimes it's the buyer, one carver says. Sometimes it's us. Sometimes it's the weather. One time I carved 87 tiny fish just because it rained during breakfast. They show you a bar carved with the image of a crane in flight, another with stars and vines, one with a very small donkey wearing what looks like a crown. Commissioned by a prince, the carver says. Had a sense of humor, also a smell problem. You ask how long it takes to learn this craft. 2 years to get decent, a woman replies. 10 to get good, a lifetime to make it look effortless. Or, Ali adds, 1 week if you're very bad and nobody stops you. There's laughter. Then a moment of silence as everyone watches a small bird hop along the fig tree's lowest branch. It pauses, pecks something invisible, and flies off in the general direction of what you hope is the mint garden. One of the older carvers turns to you, squinting. You're the visitor, aren't you? You nod. Then here, she says, handing you a small soap brick carved with a crescent moon and the word subber, patience, made from the end of a lemon lavender batch that went a little soft. It won't last long, but it'll make your clothes smell like dreams. You take it with both hands, trying not to look too moved. It's still warm, slightly uneven, and surprisingly heavy. Like most good gifts, it means more than it looks. Lunch winds down. Tea is slurped. Someone starts humming. Another throws a crust to a passing dog who sniffs it, sneezes dramatically, and walks away offended. Ali stands. "Come on," he says. "If we wait too long, the good ledgers will be taken. And I refuse to read from the one that smells like pickles again." You say your goodbyes to the carvers, tuck the soap into your cloth bag, and follow him toward the quieter side of the quarter, where the secrets are written down, not stirred. The stone path under your feet is smoother now, almost slippery with age. The air cools as you step beneath a low archway etched with faded script. And ahead, in a room filled with dust and silence, waits a book full of formulas, and probably at least 3 mysterious stains. The doorway creaks as Ali nudges it open with his elbow, muttering something about the hinges being older than his grandfather's knees. The room inside smells like old paper, cinnamon, and a little bit of anxiety, like the kind of place where things have been forgotten on purpose. It's darker here. Light filters through thin slats in the walls and lands on thick dust motes that float like drowsy stars. The walls are lined with crooked shelves stacked with ledgers, scrolls, folded cloths, empty bottles, and at least one tax record from a century nobody remembers fondly. "This," Ali says with a sweeping gesture that knocks over a jar of dried basil, "is the ledger room." A man in the corner doesn't look up from his writing. He has the focused energy of someone who hasn't blinked since breakfast. His turban is wrapped with geometrical precision. His ink-stained fingers move like he's conducting an invisible orchestra. You consider waving hello, but Ali shakes his head and whispers, "He's calculating soap shipments to Basra. If we interrupt, he has to start over. Last time that happened, he cursed a goat by accident." You quietly follow Ali to a small wooden table, where a large book sits open, propped up on a folded cushion that looks suspiciously like it once belonged to a cat. The pages are thick and yellowed, the corners dog-eared, the handwriting looped and flowing. "This," he says reverently, "is the Master Soap Formula Ledger." You lean in. On one page is a recipe written entirely in metaphor. Begin with the calm of olive oil, stir in the bite of ash, wait for the sigh of steam. On the opposite page, someone has drawn a very detailed doodle of a chicken wearing boots. Ali flips carefully through the book, pointing out entries like a tour guide in a museum of chaos. One family recipe that includes ground saffron petals and a whisper. A batch made with donkey milk. Don't ask. Nobody talks about it. A wartime soap with no oil, no ash, and no hope. Just grit and lavender lies. You laugh softly, and he grins. There's one page where the writing just trails off, mid-sentence. Below it a note. Paused for lunch, never returned. Ali taps the margin. This is known as the most relatable page in the ledger. You ask if these formulas are still used. Some, yes, he says. Others are aspirational, or cursed, or require ingredients no one can pronounce anymore. There's one formula that stands out. A lemon-honey blend said to have once cured a prince's fear of public baths. Supposedly, the scent was so comforting, he began holding court in the hammam. Scholars still debate whether that prince ever existed, Ali says. But the soap does. We keep a sliver in the corner, for special occasions, and stubborn guests. You watch as a young scribe quietly enters the room, bows toward the ledger, then opens a fresh page in a different book. They begin copying, slowly, deliberately, like writing down a lullaby. Ali explains. We make backups, just in case someone spills something, or decides to improve a recipe and ends up making floor polish again. You nod, then pause. Something on the shelf catches your eye. A smaller book, bound in blue leather, with gold embossing that's faded like a memory. You point to it. Oh, Ali says. That one's special. He lifts it down gently, like handling a sleeping kitten. Opens it. Inside, the pages are filled with single sentences, each beginning with "soap is." He reads a few aloud. Soap is a memory that floats. Soap is an apology you don't have to say out loud. Soap is proof that something dirty once mattered enough to clean. Soap is the sigh of oil when it learns to let go. You're not sure whether to cry or moisturize. He closes the book, places it back, and says, We don't read too many of those in a row. Gets philosophical real fast. Last time someone did, they tried to marry a bar of jasmine soap. You sit for a while in the quiet. The scribe's right. The dust drifts. Somewhere outside, a pot boils over, and someone yells a string of words that probably translate to, Not again. Ali sighs and stretches. All right, he says. Enough poetry. Let's go see a real problem. You raise an eyebrow. He grins. The delivery donkey. He's back. You follow him out of the cool, contemplative silence of the ledger room and into the bright, bustling afternoon sun, where, as promised, an entirely different kind of chaos awaits you, and a very opinionated donkey is blocking the soap ramp. Again. You don't need Ali to point it out. The donkey is impossible to miss. He's standing directly in front of the main delivery ramp, squarely planted like a disgruntled monument to stubbornness. His ears flick occasionally. His expression is one of pure, unshakable ambivalence, like a professor at a lecture he doesn't want to attend, let alone to teach. Ali throws up his hands. There he is, the hero of our daily drama. The ramp itself leads down to the loading yard, where bars of soap are stacked into wicker baskets and packed onto carts bound for shops across the city. At least, that's the theory. Today, it's just a growing pile of increasingly annoyed delivery workers, and one very still, very uninterested donkey. A merchant in a striped vest is pacing nearby, muttering to himself in what sounds like 4 languages and one sneeze. He sees Ali and sighs with dramatic relief. Talk to him, he begs. You've got the beard of someone he might respect. Ali approaches the donkey with exaggerated calm. Majid, he says gently. My noble friend, light of our burden-bearing community. May we pass? Majid the donkey snorts. Ali turns to you. This is Majid. He delivers soap to the perfume quarter, or at least he used to. Ever since someone tried to load him with lavender-scented bars, he's been in a bit of a philosophical slump. You squint. He doesn't like lavender. He hates lavender, Ali whispers. Makes him sneeze. And when Majid sneezes, he kicks. And when he kicks, someone ends up in the dye vat. You take a cautious step closer. Majid flicks his ears, turns his head slightly, and gives you a look that says, Explain yourself. One of the loaders tries to bribe him with a dried apricot. Majid accepts the apricot, chews it slowly, then sits down, gracefully, like a camel at a poetry recital. A small audience has gathered. An elderly soap wrapper starts humming. Someone else places bets under their breath. You get the sense this isn't the first time Majid has disrupted the entire afternoon schedule with the sheer force of his indifference. Ali sighs. This is why we can't have efficient logistics. You ask if there's a plan. There's always a plan, he says. Just never a good one. He rummages through a nearby crate and pulls out a bar of unscented soap. Pale, square, with a single stamped crescent moon on top. This, he says, holding it like a sacred artifact, is neutral batch number 11. No scent, no fuss, just good, honest bubbles. We give it to Majid when we need him to move. He tosses it to you. You step forward slowly, present the soap like an offering. Majid sniffs it, blinks, and, miraculously, stands. He takes the soap gently in his mouth, chews it once. Why? And ambles off the ramp with all the urgency of a cloud on a warm afternoon. Applause breaks out. Ali bows. We do this every Thursday, sometimes Monday, depending on his mood. The carts begin to roll again. Workers move with sudden energy. The merchant in the striped vest claps you on the back and promises you a discount next time you're in the perfume quarter, provided you don't mention the lavender incident. You and Ali lean against the wall, watching baskets of soap disappear down the alleyways. For a few minutes, everything runs smoothly. Even the cats look impressed. You ask if Majid has always been like this. No, Ali says. He used to be quite lively. Pulled 2 carts at once. Then someone fed him a fig-stuffed bar of chamomile soap. He's never forgiven the world. You think about that for a moment. You too have held grudges over bad snacks. Ali checks the position of the sun. Still a few hours before the next boil. Want to see the courtyard where they dry the soap? You nod. He gestures toward a narrow walkway lined with crooked wooden beams. Careful where you step. That last puddle, not water. Probably something experimental. You tiptoe along the edge, balancing like a tightrope walker over a sea of misplaced inventions. Somewhere behind you, Majid lets out a dramatic sigh. Ahead, the sounds of the loading yard fade, replaced by something quieter. The soft creak of drying racks, the gentle breeze rustling through linen curtains, and the faint laughter of women working in the shade. You're entering a different rhythm now, slower, drier, dusted with sun and lavender, and hopefully, no donkeys. The walkway opens into a sun-drenched courtyard, and for a moment, everything feels quieter, like the city itself is pausing for breath. The space is walled in on 3 sides, but the top is open to the sky, where a single lazy cloud drifts by like it's looking for gossip. Racks of soap line the walls, each holding rows of drying bars in various colors, ivory greenish, pink-tinged, even one that's suspiciously the color of mashed lentils. Some are smooth, others carved with delicate patterns. All of them rest like patient bricks of sleepiness. In the center of the courtyard, beneath a patchwork canopy of stretched linen, a group of women sit on low stools, gently rotating the bars and occasionally murmuring to each other in a hush that suggests either serious soap business or a very good joke being told slowly. Ali lowers his voice. This is the women's drying courtyard. Don't interrupt. They run it like a clock, and occasionally like a gossip market if the wind is right. One of the women glances up, notices you, and nods in welcome. She gestures to an empty stool near the edge. You take a seat, careful not to knock over a basket of pale green soap, marked, "For Nervous Sultans." The woman closest to you is older, with silver-threaded hair and the kind of gaze that makes you sit straighter. She's inspecting each soap bar like it's a candidate for royal marriage. After a moment, she picks one up, sniffs it delicately, then flips it over with the grace of someone who's done this thousands of times. This one's off, she murmurs. Smells like boiled apricot and regret. Another woman laughs. That was from the pomegranate batch, the one we left in the sun too long. I told you to cover it. You told me to taste the ash. They both giggle like schoolgirls who've just discovered a new word for trouble. Ali whispers, they've been working together for 30 years. If you want the truth, ask them. If you want peace, bring sweets. You watch the rhythm unfold. Each soap bar is inspected, turned, sniffed, occasionally tapped. Bars that pass are stacked in neat rows. Ones that don't are tossed into a separate basket labeled household use only, unless you hate someone. One woman leans over and offers you a bar to inspect. You hold it up, sniff it. It smells like mint, a hint of lime, and something you can only describe as last week's optimism. You nod solemnly. She raises an eyebrow. "Pass," you say, trying not to sound like you're making it up. She grins. Across the courtyard, another woman is wrapping finished bars in cloth and tying them with string. Each one is tagged with a handwritten note, some with the name of the buyer, others with charming phrases like, "for sweaty nephews," or "emergency stash for long dinners." You ask if they invent the labels themselves. "Oh yes," one woman says. "Best part of the job. The trick is to make the soap sound mysterious and mildly judgmental." Ali chuckles. "I once got one labeled, 'For the man who keeps leaving dishes in the fountain.' Still not sure if it was meant for me." You reach down and lift one of the rejected bars. It's soft, uneven, and has a faint swirl of something that might have been intended as a rose, but looks more like a sneezing cat. "Lavender and sour melon," the woman says. "Don't ask, it was a market mix-up." You ask how long the soaps stay in the courtyard. 5 days in this weather," someone says. 7 if the wind's sulking. Less if Majid sneezes again and kicks over the tent. The bars dry slowly, firming up in the shade, exposed just enough to the breeze to solidify evenly without cracking. It's not chemistry. It's something softer, like waiting for bread to cool, or for someone to say sorry without needing to. You notice that some soaps are shaped unusually, flowers, crescents, even a perfect miniature of a teapot. Custom orders, they say, sometimes for weddings, sometimes for funerals, sometimes for very wealthy people who can't sleep unless their pillows smell like nutmeg and philosophical closure. Ali points to one rack full of tiny heart-shaped bars. "These are going to a bridal caravan leaving for Kufa tomorrow. We had to rush the drying by burning orange peels under the rack. Smelled like a fruit market caught on fire." A small boy enters the courtyard holding a covered tray. He bows awkwardly, then opens it to reveal a pile of sesame sweets and 2 cups of mint tea. The women cheer softly, like he's a long-awaited messenger. He beams and sits down beside one of them, helping tie string around soap bars while sneaking bites of the dessert when he thinks no one's looking. One of the women nudges you. "Want to try tying one?" You do. Badly. Your knot is lopsided, your wrap too loose, and the string breaks twice. They watch in amused silence until you finally get one done. "Perfect," someone says with a smile. "For someone who has never done this before, it only smells slightly like confusion." You spend a little more time in the courtyard, helping where you can, listening to their stories. There's a tale about the time they accidentally scented an entire batch with cinnamon instead of cardamom, and a noblewoman used it thinking it would attract poets. It only attracted bees. Another about a runaway soap cart that rolled into a fountain and was later used to clean the mayor's shoes. That one ends with a toast and a sly wink. Eventually, the sun shifts. Shadows lengthen. Ali stands and stretches. "Ready for something even stranger?" You ask what could be stranger than sarcastic soap grandmothers and judgmental wrapping. He grins. "The garden of failed scents." You follow him out of the courtyard, past the racks, past the humming linen, and toward a narrow corridor flanked by mismatched doors. At the end of it, something green and overgrown beckons, and you naturally follow. The doorway to the garden creaks like an old man remembering something embarrassing. You step through and instantly understand why everyone refers to this place with a mixture of fondness and theatrical dread. It's not a garden in the elegant, perfectly raked sense. It's It's a patch of chaos, stitched together from cracked stone paths, leaning trellises and plants that seem to grow less from soil and more from sheer determination. Vines crawl up walls like gossip, trying to find a window. A fig tree leans dramatically over a tub of rainwater. Somewhere in the corner, a single rosebush is blooming sideways. And then there's the smell. It's not bad, exactly. Just undecided. A confusing cloud of overripe jasmine, burnt clove, something that might be celery, and a distinct whiff of what you can only describe as ambitious cucumber. It lingers in your nose like a memory of a dream you didn't enjoy. Ali grins. Welcome to the garden of failed scents. You stare. He gestures like a magician unveiling a surprise. This is where we test new ideas. New herbs, oils, blends. Things that didn't quite become soap. You ask if any of it's usable. Oh, sure, he says. For people we don't like. The garden was originally meant to be a perfumer's annex. An experimental space to grow fragrant plants and distill their oils into something saleable. But over time, it evolved into a collection of botanical oddities and olfactory accidents. Now it serves as a kind of purgatory for ambitious aromas that never found their audience. Ali leads you to a raised bed labeled Sweet Basil plus Roasted Date, Disaster Number 3. He pulls a leaf, crushes it between his fingers, and holds it up to your nose. It smells like hope and syrup, and something strangely metallic. We tried to make a breakfast soap, he admits. Didn't work. Smelled like someone spilled tea on a doormat. Nearby, there's a wilted stalk of lemongrass leaning against a sprig of dried marjoram. A tag reads, Unholy matrimony. Do not repeat. You can't help but laugh. There's a bush of mint that looks offended by its own existence. A bucket of hardened lavender wax that has been repurposed into a makeshift stool. Even a vine that produces oddly translucent berries that someone once used in a foot scrub until everyone's ankles turned briefly blue. Ali gestures to a large ceramic jar at the garden's edge. This, he says proudly, is the jar. You ask what's in it. No one knows, he replies. It's been sealed since 845 AD. We keep it in case we ever need to end a party immediately. You circle the jar with a healthy sense of distance. A faded inscription on the side reads, Open only during total lunar eclipse, and only if you're very brave or very bored. A small wooden bench rests beneath the shade of a crooked arbor, and Ali gestures for you to sit. It's good to pause here, he says. Reminds us that not everything needs to work. Sometimes it just needs to be tried. You settle in. Around you, the plants hum quietly in the warm air. Bees wobble through the sunlight like they're drunk on failed perfume. A cat naps near a pot of crushed lemongrass and dreams, you assume, of simpler scents. Ali pulls a small pouch from his belt and hands you a bar of soap. Try this one, he says. It was a mistake, but a nice one. You sniff. It smells like almonds, a hint of orange, and something else. Something almost like paper. Not ink, not dust, just paper. A library in summer. A letter you forgot to send. You smile. It's perfect. He shrugs. We call it second chance. You stay there for a while, just sitting in the garden of things that almost worked. It feels oddly peaceful, like being surrounded by every what-if that ever turned out just okay. People always talk about the successful recipes, Ali says, but we keep this place because sometimes the weird ones teach us more. You nod. The failed scents drift around you, soft and unhurried. Somewhere in the distance, a bell rings, calling workers back to the vats. But here, it seems slower, gentler, the way it does when you're not rushing to fix anything. You stand, tuck the second chance bar into your bag, and brush your hands on your robe. Ali stretches. Well, he says, That was the philosophical portion of our tour. You smirk. Is there a test? He pretends to think. Only if you can still smell banana rose thyme in your hair by sundown. As you exit the garden, you take one last look back. The plants wave lazily in the breeze. A half-labeled jar hums quietly in the sun. And the rosebush, sideways as ever, drops a single petal on the stone path behind you. Next up, mint tea, trade gossip, and stories in steam. Because nothing pairs with failed scents quite like a hammam and a very opinionated merchant. You follow Ali through a low arch that seems to sigh as you pass beneath it. Maybe from age, maybe from overhearing too many stories. The air shifts again, cooler, more humid, edged with something floral and vaguely toasted. He turns down a shaded alleyway that smells like wet stone and memories. A boy darts past carrying a towel the size of a bedsheet. A woman follows behind him, adjusting her sandal while explaining, with extraordinary calm, that last time she slipped on a soap puddle, she saw her entire childhood in reverse. Ali grins over his shoulder. We're headed to the hammam. Best tea in the quarter. Worst advice. You pass through a beaded curtain, not for show, but to keep out goats, and step into a space that seems to hum with warmth and old secrets. The bathhouse is built from cream-colored stone, patched in places with mismatched tiles. Arches rise overhead like sleeping swans. Steam curls around them lazily. You're not even in the bathing area yet, but already the scent hits you. Eucalyptus, mint, orange blossom, and just a faint trace of onion from someone's breakfast being reheated somewhere inconvenient. You're led into a side chamber lined with low benches, copper pitchers, and hooks for towels. But no one's here for the towels. They're here for the tea. In the corner sits a samovar the size of a small cow, surrounded by chipped mugs and tiny porcelain cups. The tea steward, an older man with eyebrows like eagle feathers and a robe the color of burnt sugar, nods solemnly and pours you a cup before you even ask. Mint, black leaf, a whisper of cinnamon. You sit beside Ali on a warm marble bench. Around you, merchants chat, workers unwind, and at least two elderly men argue about which caliph had the nicest handwriting. The hammam, you realize, isn't just a place to get clean. It's where deals are floated, stories steeped, reputations quietly trimmed like overgrown beards. It's the pulse of the quarter, beating slowly under layers of soap and steam. Ali waves at a man across the room who's leaning back on a rolled towel like a visiting poet. That's Farid, he says. Soap courier, part-time astrologer, full-time exaggerator. He once claimed he delivered a bar of soap to a prince by balancing it on his nose. You raise an eyebrow. Only halfway, Farid shouts across the room. The camel did the rest. Laughter rolls through the chamber like steam over tiles. You sip your tea. It's strong, slightly bitter, and surprisingly comforting. Ali takes a deep breath and stretches his arms, cracking every joint in a way that suggests he was born with too many elbows. Best time to listen is right after tea, he says. Tongues get loose, feet get warm. Truth starts pretending to be fiction. Across from you, a woman is recounting a tale about a caravan that got lost for 3 weeks because the map was drawn on soap. They washed it clean by accident, she says, and had to follow the smell of pomegranate to get back. Someone else swears that a certain merchant, who shall remain unnamed but definitely wears too much musk, once tried to invent a soap that made people agree with him. It worked, the speaker says, sipping dramatically. For one whole afternoon, then it melted in the rain. You're not sure which stories are real. You're not sure it matters. Ali sets his cup down. Want to meet someone interesting? You nod, of course, to my... He guides you past a thick curtain of steam into a smaller, quieter room. A single figure sits near a brazier, gently warming his hands. He's dressed plainly, but there's a glint in his eye that suggests he's never done anything plainly in his life. This, Ali says, is Hakim. He knows every trade route from here to China, and every scandal in between. Hakim nods slowly. Only the boring ones. He gestures for you to sit, and you do, mostly because his voice has the kind of calm authority that makes you obey even when you don't understand why. Tea? He asks. You nod. Then listen. What follows is a story not about soap, but about silk. About a single bale of fabric hidden in a shipment of soap bound for Damascus. About a merchant who disguised his goods not to evade taxes, but to propose to someone who loved the smell of clove more than diamonds. About how the shipment was intercepted, not by guards, but by a group of soap makers who recognized their own wrapping and demanded royalties in tea and sweetmeats. Some say the proposal failed, Hakim murmurs. Others say it led to the best-smelling wedding the city ever saw. You glance at Ali, who simply shrugs. Historians still argue about it. Hakim finishes his tea, stands, and vanishes behind a curtain without another word. As if the story itself was enough to pay for his presence. Ali exhales. That's the thing about this place, he says. You never know what kind of story is going to walk through the steam. You spend a little more time in the hammam, letting the warmth seep into your shoulders, your feet, your thoughts. The air is soft, the story's even softer. Eventually, Ali stands. Come on, he says, before you turn into a raisin. There's someone I want you to meet. You follow him back through the beaded curtain and into the late afternoon light. He looks over his shoulder. You ever met someone who collects soap like scrolls? You haven't, but you're about to. You leave the hammam with your skin warm and your thoughts slightly fogged, like a mirror that's only just beginning to clear. The alley outside smells sharper now, like mint that's been stepped on and oranges that were sliced hours ago. Ali walks ahead, energized again, his sandals slapping against the stone with renewed purpose. We're headed to see a collector, he says, but not the kind with swords or scrolls or coins. No, this one collects soap. You try to picture it, a dusty room stacked with ancient soap bars, maybe guarded by a cat with a monocle and a suspicious cough. Don't look so concerned, Ali says, glancing back. He's not dangerous, just passionate. You turn onto a quieter lane. The noise of the quarter fades behind you, replaced by birdsong, the rustle of drying laundry, and the occasional clunk of a loose tile surrendering to gravity. At the end of the lane is a small, two-story house with pale green shutters and a wooden door that looks like it once auditioned for the role of mysterious bookcase. The brass knocker is shaped like a pomegranate, which feels fitting, though you're not sure why. Ali knocks once, then twice, fast. A moment passes. The door creaks open. A man peers out, thin, bespectacled, with eyebrows like overfed caterpillars and a robe too long for his frame. He blinks slowly, squints at Ali, then at you. Did you bring the good lemon bar this time? He asks. Ali holds up his hands. No trades, just a tour. The man mutters something about missed opportunities and swings the door wide. You step into what can only be described as a shrine to soap. Shelves line every wall, wooden, wobbly, crammed with bars wrapped in parchment, tied in ribbon, sealed with wax, or simply stacked like fragrant bricks. The room smells like 400 years of polite cleanliness. Almonds, myrrh, citrus, smoke, and time. This, Ali says with the flair of a museum guide, is the home of Nabil, Baghdad's unofficial soap historian. Nabil bows slightly, then waddles to a nearby shelf and removes a bar wrapped in silk. First acquisition, he says proudly. Camel milk and saffron. Smells like regret and warm bread. You don't doubt it. He leads you around the room, pointing out highlights like they're precious manuscripts. A batch made in Andalusia in the year 912, supposedly by a prince who believed scented soap would make him dream of better poetry. A rose-scented bar, allegedly gifted by a Persian noblewoman to her rival, with a note that read, "May you always smell sweeter than your lies." A hardened lump of indigo-colored soap stamped with the seal of a forgotten merchant guild. No one knows what it smells like, Nabil says. It's too old. Smells like concept now. In the corner, a glass case holds a cracked soap brick with an uneven carving of a goat. Ali leans in. "This is the one," he whispers. "The lavender incident of 847. You gasp in mock awe. Nabil beams. Each soap has a story. Some are love letters, some are warnings, some are wildly implausible, like the one that was supposedly buried with a queen and found intact a century later, smelling of jasmine and overconfidence. You ask Nabil why he collects them. "Because history has scent," he says simply. "Ink fades, but soap lingers." He offers you a tiny slice of something labeled unknown origin, possibly mango, and tells you to keep it. "Your pocket will thank me." You tuck it away, even though it feels more like accepting a riddle than a gift. As you're admiring a heart-shaped bar labeled "For a monk who refused baths," a loud creak comes from upstairs. You glance up. "Don't worry," Nabil says. "That's just the shelves settling, or the ghosts." You wait for him to laugh. He doesn't. Instead, he opens a side drawer and pulls out a small notebook. "Here," he says. "Sign your name." You do. Right below someone named Fatima, who thought sandalwood was overrated, and just above M the Younger, possibly allergic to lime. It feels like joining a club, one that doesn't meet, doesn't judge, but always smells incredible. Ali pats Nabil on the shoulder. "We'll be back next week, maybe with a bar that smells like roasted walnut." "Please don't," Nabil replies flatly. You step outside, the air feeling different now, lighter somehow, like you've just stepped out of a dream that left a note under your pillow. As the door clicks shut behind you, Ali says, "Next up, a mystery, a crime, a legend." You raise an eyebrow. "The great olive oil heist of 823, he says, eyes gleaming. You follow, of course, because by now you've realized, in the soap quarter, even the crimes smell good. Ali walks with the unmistakable swagger of someone about to tell a story that's been retold so many times, it may have started as a grocery list. He doesn't even wait for you to ask, just dives in. "It was the spring of 823, he begins, voice low and dramatic, when the olive oil heist shook the soap quarter to its foundations, or at least to its storage sheds. You follow him past a row of locked carts and stacked baskets toward a narrow alley that smells vaguely of fermented olives and conspiracy. The walls here are damp, and moss grows where the sunlight forgets to reach. A cat darts across your path, looking extremely suspicious. Ali stops beside a cracked wooden door with a rusted hinge and an unnecessarily dramatic creak. He gestures to the faint, faded writing on the door. "Warehouse 7. Private storage. Trespassers will be gently mocked." He pushes it open. The space inside is mostly empty now, just a few old barrels, some cobwebs that look retired, and a beam of afternoon light cutting through the gloom like a silent witness. Ali steps inside, points at a stain on the far wall. "That," he whispers, "is where the first clue was found. A single, oily handprint, left by someone who clearly didn't respect gloves." You nod solemnly, because that's what one does in the presence of legendary fingerprints. The story, as Ali tells it, goes like this. One night, a shipment of high-grade olive oil barrels meant for a batch of luxury soap scented with orange blossom and regional ambition, vanished without a trace. No broken locks, no wheel ruts. Just gone. In their place, 3 decoy barrels filled with old tea leaves, a single onion, and one handwritten apology note signed simply B. The quarter erupted into chaos. No soap could be made without the oil. Merchants wrung their hands. Apprentices blamed each other. A camel was questioned, then released without charges. Everyone had a theory. Some said it was a rival district trying to sabotage Baghdad's soap exports. Others believed it was an inside job, possibly the infamous Basil smugglers of Basra, who had been operating under the cover of delivering seasonal salad ingredients. Ali, of course, has his own theory. He leads you up a small ladder to a narrow loft where a few ancient boxes gather dust. They say, he murmurs, the oil was never stolen, just misfiled. You blink. Misfiled, he nods. Put into the wrong barrels, shipped to the wrong city, received by the wrong cousin, and turned into salad dressing that made its way to a royal banquet in Damascus. You ask how that theory could be proven. He points to a letter in a cracked frame on the wall. It reads, "To the honored soap makers of Baghdad, your recent shipment of oil has brought clarity and shine to our imperial vegetables. We thank you and suggest a labeling system next time. Signed, Basil, cook to His Majesty." You stare. Ali shrugs. Could be fake, but it did smell like our oil. You descend the ladder, still unsure if you just walked through a real crime scene or an elaborate rebranding campaign for olive oil. Probably both. Historians still argue about it, Ali says. Some say it was theft. Others call it diplomacy. You ask what the quarter did afterward. "We made a new batch," he replies. "And a new rule." He points to a sign above the door as you leave. "Inventory twice, ship once, no onions." Back outside, the light is golden, the shadows long. You walk with Ali past the vats, now simmering for the evening boil, and toward the quieter edges of the quarter, where the older workshops sit like sun-warmed memories. He turns to you, grinning. "Ready for something truly ridiculous?" You raise an eyebrow. "There's a philosopher," he says, "who thinks soap bubbles contain the universe." You try to laugh, but the way he says it, you're not sure he's joking. Ali leads you down another winding alley, this one flanked by leaning brick walls and windows shaded with woven palm mats. It smells like beeswax and half-finished thoughts, the kind of place where ideas ferment. "There he is," Ali whispers, as if afraid to disturb the air itself. "The philosopher." You peer ahead and spot a figure sitting cross-legged on a woven mat, staring intently at a shallow ceramic bowl filled with soapy water. He's gently blowing through a hollow reed, sending iridescent bubbles drifting skyward like lazy spirits. The man is dressed in soft linens. His beard is forked, like a goat who read too much poetry. His eyebrows arch with the intensity of someone who once argued with a pigeon about epistemology and lost. Ali clears his throat. "Master Yusuf, we seek wisdom, or failing that, entertainment." The philosopher waves one hand languidly, without taking his eyes off the floating bubble. "Wisdom, like a bubble, is visible only when the light hits it just right. Also, it smells better." You sit cross-legged across from him. He nods solemnly. "You're wondering," he says, "if I'm serious." You kind of are. He dips his reed again, blows another bubble, larger this time, shimmering with hints of green and purple. It drifts up, hovers, then pops gently against a beam of sunlight. Yusuf sighs. "A shame. That one contained a rather elegant proof about the nature of time." Ali whispers. "He's been like this since the great saffron debate." You ask, carefully, what exactly he believes about bubbles. "Oh, everything," Yusuf says. Bubbles are complete systems, spheres of potential, microcosms of the greater cosmic motion. Also, if you stare at them long enough, you forget about your taxes. He gestures to a scroll beside him, half unrolled, covered in diagrams of spheres, spirals, and what might be a duck wearing spectacles. See this? A model of the celestial sphere, rendered entirely in soap foam. Ali leans in and whispers, he tried to teach geometry to a cauldron once. You nod slowly. And? It boiled more thoughtfully for a week. Yusuf picks up a small glass jar filled with an odd greenish paste. My own blend, he says. Mint, olive, crushed rose petals, and a philosophical extract derived from disappointment. You ask what it does. He shrugs. Smells like childhood, or maybe betrayal. Depends on your memory. He dips another reed and blows. This time, a trio of bubbles dance into the air. One pops almost immediately. The second bounces off Ali's shoulder with a soft piff. The third floats, drifts, and, somehow, pauses mid-air. You blink. Yusuf beams. There, that one's thinking. Ali applauds politely. It does this sometimes. You watch it hover. For a second, it really does feel like something is happening inside it. A shape, a flicker, a memory you haven't had yet. Then, it bursts. Yusuf sighs again. Curiosity is a fragile container. He offers you a try. You take the reed, dip it carefully, and blow. Your bubble is smaller, wobbly. It floats a little, pivots in the air, then collides gently with Yusuf's nose and pops with a tiny squeak. He nods, serious. You're a skeptic. Ali is now inspecting one of the diagrams on the scroll. Is this a map of emotions? Possibly, Yusuf says. Or breakfast. A few more bubbles drift lazily into the afternoon light. One lands on your sleeve. You don't move. It stays intact for nearly 10 seconds. Yusuf watches it reverently. That, he whispers, is patience. You ask him if he's ever made soap himself. Oh no, he says. Too many instructions. I prefer abstraction. You ask if he's ever sold any of his theories. One store, he says. To a baker who thought they were recipes. He made bread that tasted like lost dreams. You sit in silence for a moment longer, letting the bubbles rise and fall like tiny glistening philosophies. The wind is soft. The sun leans against the roof tiles. Somewhere, a bird chirps like it's laughing at a joke no one else heard. Eventually, Yusuf rolls up his scroll and tucks it into a pouch made from repurposed linen. Enough wisdom for today, he says. Go wash your hands, but with awareness. Ali stands. Well, he mutters, that was enlightening. You both walk away slowly, past another alley filled with laundry, and toward the edge of the quarter where ledgers are kept and soap taxes are filed with more drama than necessary. You glance back once. Yusuf is already blowing another bubble. This one looks suspiciously like Saturn. You leave the philosopher behind, still hunched in his patch of sun, whispering to bubbles like they're trusted advisors, and follow Ali into a much less dreamy, significantly more rectangular part of the quarter. The ground here is swept clean. The walls are lined with ledgers and chalkboards. The people wear belts with pockets. There is not a single fig tree in sight. You can smell the bureaucracy, Ali mutters. Smells like ink, boiled vinegar, and self-importance. You've arrived at the Bureau of Soap Taxes. A carved sign over the arch reads, Soap Purity, Payment, and Punctuation Division. Underneath, in much smaller letters, please be patient. We are in denial. Inside, rows of desks made from mismatched planks form an uneasy maze. Each one is covered in towers of paper tied with twine, stacks of receipts written in 3 different dialects, and the occasional pigeon feather stuck in an ink pot. You hear gentle murmuring, a deep sigh, the distant sound of a calculator made of regret. Ali nudges your arm. This is where the real alchemy happens. A man with impossibly high cheekbones and sleeves rolled to his elbows waves you over. His name is Farouk, and he wears the expression of someone who once tried to organize a warehouse by smell and is still emotionally recovering. "You here to file a batch log?" he asks without looking up. Ali grins. No, just showing our guest how the Empire runs." Farouk grunts. "Empire's broke. Someone filed 700 bars of soap under miscellaneous last week." You ask how soap is taxed. "Oh, it's a deeply spiritual process," he says. "You declare your ingredients, production date, aromatic intention, and commercial destiny. Then we assign a value based on a highly calibrated system of math, mood, and whether we've had lunch." He shows you a form. It's 14 pages long. Page 9 is just drawings of camels. Page 10 has a space labeled, "What were you trying to do?" Ali peers at the margins. "You still using pigeon ink?" "Only on ceremonial soaps," Farouk says. "The rest gets squid." Another clerk nearby sneezes, accidentally spills a bottle of oil, and begins muttering an apology in a blend of Arabic and what might be goat. No one looks surprised. At a nearby desk, a scribe is painstakingly labeling a shipment manifest. You glance over their shoulder. 16 bars, mint and lime, mood, confident. 5 bars, frankincense and ash, for dramatic exits. 1 bar, unidentified scent, possibly regret or apricot. Ali whispers, "We once tried to file a batch under soap that smells like a childhood argument, rejected for being too relatable." You ask if taxes are always paid in coin. "Not always," Farouk replies. "Sometimes in trade, sometimes in poetry. Once we accepted a sonnet and 2 singing chickens, regretted the chickens." He opens a drawer and pulls out a bar of soap shaped like a scroll. "This," he says, "was filed as literature. Technically, it passed." He sets it back carefully beside a sealed envelope labeled, "For auditors only," contains mild sarcasm. You walk down the central aisle, where tax collectors quietly duel with their quills, flipping through records with the weary grace of those who know exactly how much soap it takes to bribe a minor official. 4 bars, if it's lavender. 5 if it's sandalwood. One woman sits at a table marked disputes. A man in front of her is arguing that his shipment of cinnamon rose soap should be taxed as food, because it smells better than my wife's pastries. The woman stares at him until he stops breathing. "Next," she says without blinking. Ali leans close. "Never mess with Auntie Rima. She once ended a feud between 2 spice merchants using nothing but an eyebrow and a bar of bay leaf soap. You believe it?" You ask if the Bureau ever loses records. Farouk snorts, "Constantly. Which is why we invented the soap ledger of last resort." He points to a massive tome bound in fraying leather and held together by what appears to be chewing gum and divine will. It's open on a table nearby. Every page is a patchwork of handwriting, corrections, and oddly specific doodles. "Only used in emergencies," he says, "or when we're feeling nostalgic." The page currently displayed reads, "Batch number 3129, accidentally lemon-scented, transported by mule. Mule opinion, mixed." Ali claps you on the back. "Now you see. The soap quarter isn't just vats and herbs. It's paperwork. It's politics. It's..." He waves his arm grandly. "The subtle art of making things clean, by getting messy first." You glance around. Quills scribble. Pigeons coo in the rafters. Someone curses softly in calligraphy. And for a brief moment, you understand the strange poetry of it all. Ali checks the light. We've got time for one more stop before the evening chill, he says. Something gentle, something old. You follow him past the ledgers and into the fading afternoon, toward a tiny courtyard where memory smells like perfume and everything moves just a little slower. The sun has lowered itself gently against the rooftops, casting everything in that honey-colored glow that makes even soap dust look romantic. You and Ali wander away from the tax bureau's bureaucratic bustle and into one of the quieter corners of the quarter. Here, the streets narrow, the noise thins, and the air smells older. You arrive at a small, ivy-covered archway that leads into a courtyard so modest you almost miss it. But the second you step through, it's like entering a painting someone painted with patience. Low stone walls cradle a central pool of still water. Vines hang lazily from wooden trellises. The scent in the air is soft. Part rose, part something smokier, deeper. Something nostalgic. Seated beside the pool is an elderly man with a nose that could only be described as distinguished, and fingers that look like they've spent decades uncorking memories. His robe is faded crimson, his posture elegant in that way only age and indifference to discomfort can allow. This, Ali says, is Master Hamid, perfumer, retired, philosopher, reluctant, storyteller, involuntarily. Master Hamid chuckles without opening his eyes. You forgot, sleepy. He lifts a small clay jar and sets it beside him. You're just in time. He opens the jar. The scent that escapes is not bold, not overwhelming, just right, like old paper warmed by the sun, like a letter tucked into a coat pocket and rediscovered years later. You sit across from him on a cool stone bench, and he begins to speak in a voice that rolls like silk unfurling. They say memory lives in the nose, he says. That a single scent can bring back a childhood, a sorrow, a love affair that never quite happened. He dips his fingers into the jar, then onto a thin strip of parchment. Waves it once. The smell wafts over to you. Clove, maybe, or nutmeg, but softer, rounder. That, he says, was what my father wore on the day he tried to build a boat from soap crates. Ali snorts. It floated for 10 seconds. Longer than your cooking did, Hamid replies. You smile. Master Hamid reaches into a wooden box beside him and lifts out a tiny bottle sealed with wax. This, he says, was made from the petals of the last rosebush to bloom before the drought of 789. Or so the label claims. He cracks it open. A scent like shy summer evenings and watered silk creeps into the air. You ask how he remembers them all. I don't, he says. But the scents remember me. He gestures around the courtyard. Each jar, bottle, and paper scrap holds a story. A scent from a journey, a failure, a festival. Some perfumes are labeled. Others just have question marks, or poetic phrases like, for when you can't quite cry, or smells like the first lie you forgave. Ali picks up a vial and sniffs, coughs. What is this? Smells like regret and boiled squash. Hamid peers at it. Ah, my apprentice made that one after a breakup. Called it, I'm fine. You and Ali both laugh. The courtyard grows quieter as the light fades. The pool reflects the early evening sky, and a cool breeze carries the mingled scents in soft waves around the stone walls. Hamid hands you a strip of parchment infused with something bright and calming. Lemon, verbena, and dried fig, he says. From the day my wife laughed at me for forgetting her name during a poem I wrote for her. You sniff. It smells like affection, embarrassment, and lunch under a tree. You ask if he still makes perfume. He shakes his head. Not for sale, just for memory. For me. For friends. For the past that shows up in the morning without knocking. He stands slowly, joints creaking like old doors, and walks to a shelf built into the wall. He selects a bottle, blue glass wrapped in twine, and hands it to you. No label, he says. Just try it before you sleep. You nod, tucking it into your satchel with quiet gratitude. Ali checks the sky. We should go before the vats get jealous. You stand. Hamid smiles gently. Tell the pots I said hello, and that I'm still not sorry for stealing that last batch of bay oil. You head out, back into the twilight, scents still clinging to your clothes like whispered stories. Ali walks beside you without speaking for a moment, then says, he once made a perfume that smelled like the sound of rain on stairs. You don't ask how, you just believe it. Because in the soap quarter of Baghdad, some things don't need proof. Just breath, just scent, just memory. The courtyard outside is cool and quiet, blanketed in a softness that only comes after the day has finally exhaled. Above you, the sky is ink blue, dusted with stars. A crescent moon leans like a sleepy eyebrow above the rooftops. It smells different here. Not of work or spice or soap, but of stillness, cool stone, evening air. The faintest hint of jasmine climbing a far miti like it's trying not to be noticed. Ali walks slower now, his footsteps gentler. This is where the perfumers used to teach, he says. Not the recipes, the real part, the part that doesn't fit in jars. You're not sure what that means yet, but it sounds promising. In the center of the courtyard, a single brazier flickers softly, casting long shadows that sway like dancers unsure of the rhythm. Around it, a group of people, mostly apprentices, some older, sit in a loose circle. No one is speaking. No one is moving much. They're just present. Ali nudges you toward the edge of the circle and sits cross-legged beside you. An elderly woman, her silver hair braided with thin strips of indigo cloth, rises from the far side and steps forward. She carries a long wooden ladle and a shallow copper bowl, which she places gently over the brazier. A sweet, woody scent begins to drift upward. Something resinous, like myrrh, but softer, warmer. She speaks in a voice low and warm enough to melt ink. In this quarter, she says, we use scent not only to clean, but to remember, to teach, to mark the passing of seasons, of people, of days like this one. She stirs the bowl once. Each ingredient, she says, has a voice, and when you blend them carefully, with respect, that voice becomes a story, not loud, but lasting. She drops a few dried leaves into the bowl. A whisper of smoke curls into the air. Bay leaf, she says. For courage, a sprinkle of powder. Ground fig skin for softness. A few drops from a small bottle. Essence of orange blossom, for what's gone, but not forgotten. The scent changes subtly with each addition, becoming layered, richer, deeper, like a chord made of memory instead of music. She pauses, looks around the circle, and for a moment, the silence is heavy enough to feel on your shoulders. Now, she says, we remember. One by one, the apprentices step forward. Each drops something into the bowl, a dried petal, a twist of bark, a single clove, even a strand of hair. With each offering, the scent shifts, not drastically, just enough to say, I was here. Ali leans over and whispers, this is the moonlit lesson. They do it at the end of every season. For those who stayed, for those who left. You ask what people usually offer. He shrugs. Whatever they have, whatever they need to let go of, or carry forward. When it's your turn, you step forward slowly. Your hand finds the tiny bar of soap Master Hamid gave you earlier. the one with no label. You break off the smallest sliver and drop it into the bowl. The scent changes, not loudly. Just enough for you to know it happened. Warmth, paper, orange peel. A hint of something soft and unspoken. You step back. The woman stirs the bowl one last time. The smoke rises and curls skyward. Not high, just enough to meet the stars halfway. She nods once, then steps back into the circle and sits. No one claps. No one speaks. The scent lingers. Ali exhales beside you. Some say the smoke carries your memory with it. Others say it just makes your clothes smell incredible. Either way, not a bad ending. You nod. Because it isn't. Someone begins humming. A melody so faint, it might just be the breeze playing with memory. Or the stones sighing with relief that no more barrels will be dropped on them tonight. The fire burns lower. The moon watches. And the quarter, like you, begins to settle. The embers in the brazier glow like coals hiding old secrets, pulsing quietly in the heart of the courtyard. People begin to drift away in pairs or alone, carrying the scent of the evening with them like an invisible shawl. Ali stretches with a satisfied sigh. Time for the packing rituals, he says. Most visitors don't get to see it, mostly because they fall asleep before then. He looks at you pointedly. You follow. The packing room is tucked behind a worn wooden door that groans like a tired elder being asked to dance. Inside, the air is thick with warmth and the steady rhythm of a night not quite ready to end. It's quieter here. No jokes, no shouting, just the soft shuffle of feet on clay tiles and the occasional creak of a waxed string being tied too tight. You see baskets lined up neatly along one wall, each labeled with their destination. Basra, Aleppo, Constantinople, Kufa, the woman with the loud parrot. You don't ask. Each basket is filled with soap wrapped and tied, waiting to be packed for long journeys. Some will go by caravan, others by riverboat, a few by mule with very specific dietary requirements. Ali grabs a folded cloth and begins laying out bars in tight rows. You follow his lead. Each bar is wrapped in linen, labeled, then pressed gently into place like tucking in a child. No rushing, no stacking. Everything is aligned with the kind of care that implies someone's going to open it months from now and smile. You ask if this part matters. The wrapping, the arranging. Ali doesn't answer immediately. He folds a soap bar that smells faintly of cardamom and sandalwood, ties it with string, and sets it beside the others. Then he says, "We spend days making these, sometimes weeks. What's the point if we treat the last 10 minutes like an afterthought?" You nod. It makes sense. Even the ending deserves attention. A woman near the back hums softly as she works. She's labeling each bar with tiny notes in charcoal ink. For the road. For courage before letters. For hands that remember. One bar simply says, "Try again." You ask how they know what to write. Ali shrugs. You hold the bar, you wait, you write what comes. You pick up a small pale soap, barely scented. You hold it for a while, then you write, "For when you need quiet." Ali sees it, nods. That's a good one. The baskets begin to fill, each bar nestled like a letter never sent, like a promise folded in linen. There's something almost ceremonial about it, like you're preparing these soaps not just for transport, but for memory, for meaning. For a moment in someone else's life you'll never see, but somehow shaped. One basket is being packed with soaps in the shape of birds. Another holds tiny crescents scented with saffron and smoke. One, labeled "To the Teacher in Nishapur," contains only 4 bars, each shaped like a book, bound in pressed indigo paper. Ali lifts a final bar, ties it neatly, then sets it on top of a finished basket. That's the last one. Someone seals the lid with wax, presses a copper stamp into the top. Sabun Baghdad, soap of Baghdad. Then they blow on the seal gently, not to cool it, just to finish it, like a kiss on the forehead. The room empties slowly. You sit on the edge of a crate, stretching your back, watching as the final baskets are set beside the door. Tomorrow, they'll leave the quarter. Some will go to ports, others to caravans. Some may take months to arrive, but they'll carry today with them. Ali wipes his hands on a towel. We used to pack at dawn, he says. But then we realized some things should end in candlelight. He offers you a leftover bar. You sniff it. Cinnamon, honey, something like old paper and patience. You pocket it. Outside, the night has deepened. The alley is lit only by moonlight and a single oil lamp swaying in the breeze. You walk with Ali back through the quiet quarter, past the cooling vats, the sleepy cats, the echoing footsteps of a donkey you can't quite see. I like this part, he says. The walk back? No, he says. The hush. The part where everything's done, and nothing's urgent. You reach the guest house just as the shutters are being drawn for the night. Ali pauses at the door. One more thing to see, he says. But only if you're still awake. You are, barely, but just enough. He gestures toward the rooftop staircase. You follow. Because in the soap quarter of old Baghdad, even the endings come wrapped in quiet beauty. The rooftop stairs are narrow, uneven, and whisper ancient complaints with every step. You grip the rail, a sun-worn piece of wood that feels more like driftwood than architecture, and follow Ali upward, each breath deeper now, cooler. The heat of the day has dissolved into memory. At the top, a wide flat rooftop opens before you, rimmed by low clay walls and scattered with cushions and folded blankets. A chipped jug of water sits near a bundle of mint leaves, and someone's forgotten sandal lies upside down like a sleepy question. But you hardly notice any of that, because of the sky. Above you, Baghdad stretches into night. The domes of distant mosques glint softly in the moonlight. Lanterns flicker along the Tigris like grounded stars. And the soap quarter, usually so noisy, so steamy, so awake, rests in near silence, exhaling gently into the dark. Ali lies back on a cushion and points upward. You can almost smell the stars. You sit beside him. The air is thick with jasmine, dust, and a trace of lemon oil still clinging to your sleeve. Somewhere below, a boiler sighs into silence. This is where the old masters came, he says, after the last stir, after the ledgers were sealed, when there was nothing left to teach but stillness. You both watch as a bat darts past overhead, a dark blur between constellations. Ali points again. See that? You squint. Not the star, he says. The scent line. You blink. What? He smiles. No one believes me, but on cool nights like this, the scents rise. Slowly. You can smell fig trees near the hammam, the vinegar from the dye vats, the almond oil near the ledger room. It's like the whole quarter leaves a trace in the sky. You close your eyes. And he's not wrong. It's faint, but there, under the breath of the wind, you catch a swirl of sweetness, a flicker of charcoal, the ghost of saffron, and maybe, just maybe, the softest breath of marjoram. The sky remembers, he says. Not with images, with aroma. It holds on to the day and lets it go, one scent at a time. He pours water into 2 cups and hands you one. The mint in it is cool, sharp, honest. You sip, grateful. Ali lies back again. This is when we let it all settle. The stories, the spices, the soap. Nothing to fix, nothing to file. Just let it float. You lie beside him. The rooftop stone still holds a little warmth. A breeze wanders across your arms like a lazy cat. Below, the soap quarter dreams. You imagine the vats cooling, the baskets tied shut, the cat from the wrapping room curling into someone's half-folded laundry. The old ledgers closed, their pages still fragrant with ink and argument. You imagine someone waking in a far-off city tomorrow, opening a bar of soap that smells like this very moment, and pausing, not knowing why they suddenly feel calm. Ali shifts beside you. You'll forget most of today, he says. The names, the doors, the street with the goat that sings. You chuckle, but you'll remember the warmth of the stone, he says. The way the soap felt in your hand, the way the wrapping paper rustled, the smell of patience. You nod, because you already do. The sky above you deepens to velvet. A breeze stirs your hair. Somewhere, a donkey brays once, then apparently decides it's not worth the effort and falls silent. Ali yawns. We should go in soon. You don't move, neither does he, because here, in this perfect hush, there is nothing else to do. Just stars and soap and the soft memory of steam. You don't remember falling asleep. Maybe it happened right after the second bat. Maybe after Ali told the story of the soap that smelled like lightning and frightened two horses and a nun. Or maybe you drifted off somewhere between the mint tea and the way the wind curled around your ankles like an old scarf. Either way, the rooftop faded into dreams before your thoughts finished packing. Now you're waking slowly. The stone beneath you is cooler. The stars have shifted places. The lanterns in the alleys below have mostly gone out. And the moon, once high and cocky, is lower now, humble, hanging just above the edge of the roof, like it's trying not to intrude. Ali is gone. So are the cups. Only a folded blanket remains, gently draped over your legs like a parting note written in linen. You sit up, stretch, yawn in a way that feels like an exhale from your bones. From here, the soap quarter looks even quieter, if that's possible. You can make out the dark shapes of the vats, the faint outlines of drying racks. A pair of cats sit side by side on the wall below, like old philosophers who ran out of opinions. You head downstairs. The guest house is asleep. The perfumer's cat is curled in the corner, a single paw twitching, as if chasing something in its dreams. You step carefully, feeling like a guest in your own footsteps. Outside, the sky has begun to hint at morning, that delicate hour when the blue creeps back in, slow and shy, and the birds haven't fully committed yet. You walk slowly, retracing your steps, not out of necessity, but nostalgia. Past the garden of failed scents, which now smells like dew and forgiveness. Past the wrapping room, where a lone lantern still glows, illuminating a forgotten scrap of parchment that reads, simply, for later. Past the alley where the philosopher sits by day, now empty except for a reed left leaning in a bowl of quiet water. Finally, you reach the courtyard where you started. A few early workers are stirring. Soft voices, bare feet, the clink of copper pots being readied for the first boil. No one rushes. No one yawns loudly. It's the kind of beginning that knows better than to wake the day all at once. You sit by the fountain, the same one from earlier, the water still cold and clear and patient. And there, wrapped in cloth and tied with a sprig of mint, is a small bar of soap. No tag, no note, just waiting. You pick it up. It smells like the entire day. You close your eyes. The mint tea, the fig bread, the donkey, the ledger, the bubble, the poem, the patch of sky that smelled like cardamom and absence, the soap you wrapped, the stories you forgot you were part of. It's all there, somehow. You don't know how long you sit there. Long enough for the first rooster to complain. Long enough for someone to pour water into a vat and for the sound to echo like a yawn across the stone. When you finally rise, the sky is lighter. You hear Ali somewhere in the distance, arguing about labels with someone who definitely cares too much about citrus blends. You smile, because it all feels right, and whole, and soft around the edges. You walk one last time through the gate of the soap quarter. It creaks, as always. And then, you step back into the city, carrying the scent of 1,000 small kindnesses, of patience, and quiet, and home. The streets of Baghdad, beyond the soap quarter, stir with early footsteps, but they move differently now, to your ears. Slower, more careful, like the whole city is whispering over breakfast. You drift through the morning like steam, soft, warm, invisible in the best way. Vendors set up carts with clinks and thuds. A boy with a tray of sesame rings yawns so wide he nearly drops them. A flock of birds erupts from a rooftop as if startled by their own wings. And yet, in your satchel, the quiet weight of the wrapped soap bar reminds you you're still carrying part of the day before. Part of that long, slow exhale the quarter gave you. And maybe, just maybe, you're still in it. Your feet, somehow, carry you not toward the inn, nor the river, nor the market stalls with their bright scarves and arguing spice merchants, but back. Not toward the soap quarter exactly, but toward the place beside it. A neighborhood where stories and steam meet. You follow the scent, not strong, no, never strong, but familiar. A note of rosewater, maybe? Or was it orange blossom? A trick of memory, like tasting a dream you once forgot on purpose. You find yourself standing at a small wooden door, marked with a single character. Eh. The Arabic letter Sin, often used to mean soap, story, or simply silence. You knock once, no answer. So you push it open. Inside is a single room, bright but quiet. No steam, no vats, just cushions, shelves, a wide wooden table in the center, and on it, open journals, empty wrappers, old tools, a few well-used quills, and a scattering of tiny soap carvings shaped like animals. A lion, a dove, a fish curled like a question mark. And behind the table, the boy from the wrapping room. Except now he's older. Or perhaps he always was, and you're just seeing more clearly. He doesn't speak. Just gestures to a stool beside him, and returns to what he was doing. Writing on a parchment, slowly, with pauses, like someone translating scent into story. You sit. He pushes a small piece of parchment toward you. On it, describe your day, but only in scent. You think. You hesitate. Then you write. Fig skin, burned ash, damp mint, goat, myrrh, patience, orange peel, wool, silence. He nods. Then he writes beneath it. That's enough. He reaches into a drawer, pulls out a small paper-wrapped bundle, and places it in your hands. It's warm somehow, heavy like memory. No label, he finally says. It's yours to name, or not. You nod, and leave without another word, because this moment doesn't need more. Outside, the sky has warmed fully. People bustle now, with the urgency of those who didn't watch bubbles last night. But you walk slowly, intentionally. You stop at a small fountain, unwrap the bundle, and wash your hands. The scent rises. It's not strong, but it's yours. And the day begins again, not loudly, but with that same quiet promise. You were here. You remember. You carry it now, not just the soap, but the stillness. You return to the guest house, just as the city begins to lift its voice. Carts rolling, children shouting, the thud of bread hitting oven walls. But here, in the room above the perfumery, the hush still lingers like a second skin. The shutters are cracked just enough to let in the golden edge of morning. You sit on the small floor cushion near the window and unlace your sandals slowly, as if every knot holds the weight of a memory. In a way, it does. Every step through the quarter, every scent, every voice, every warm-handed gesture clings to you now like a fine dust. You could shake it off, but why would you? From your satchel, you remove the bar of soap Master Hamid gave you, the one wrapped in mystery and air, and next to it, the one from the boy. The unnamed. The one made, you realize, not to sell, not even to share, but simply to mark the end of something worth remembering. You set them on the windowsill. They sit side by side. Two silent witnesses. Below, a cat walks across the roof tiles like it owns the sky. You lean back and let your weight sink into the room. Everything slows, your breath, your thoughts, even the light. This is the part no one talks about. The soft unraveling of a long day well lived. No more errands, no more stories, just the settling. You lie down, the cool of the tile beneath you, the warmth of the blanket still folded from the rooftop nap. Outside, someone laughs, faint, polite, distant. A door creaks. A dove coos in a gutter like it's telling a secret just to you. And then, stillness. Deep and quiet and full. You think of the garden of failed scents, the cauldrons, the carving hands, the donkey, the ledger, the woman who tied your soap with mint and linen and a word you forgot until just now. For when you need quiet, you do. You needed it all along. And now, as your thoughts dissolve into the softness of this fading world, you realize you've never been cleaner. Not just in skin, but in spirit. The hush seeps into you like perfume on warm cloth. The stories blur, the scents become fog. Your limbs grow heavy, and your breathing gentler, longer, like the wind wrapping the quarter in one final sigh. Somewhere, far away, a vat bubbles softly, not urgently, not for you. You are done. You are still. You are home.